How is it possible that in tiny Japanese fishing villages, 100-year-olds walk daily to the market with baskets of fresh vegetables, while in the US, many struggle to reach 75 in good health? The contrast is staggering, and it raises a painful but important question. What are they doing so differently? Consider this. Japan has more than 92,000 centenarians, men and women over the age of 100, many still active, alert, and joyful. Meanwhile, America, with nearly 3 times the population, has fewer than half that number. The gap is not just about genetics, it's about choices, habits, and culture. And these choices start adding up decades before we notice the price. In this video, we're diving into the 4 shocking differences that explain why so many Japanese thrive well past 100, while Americans often face a decline by their mid-70s. These are not simple eat better, move more cliches. You'll hear about lifestyle patterns and hidden truths that rarely make it into health headlines. And I promise, the final difference will challenge what most of us have been taught about aging in America. But before we reveal them, I want to ask you, would you want to live to 100 if it meant living with health, not hospitals? Drop your answer in the comments below. Hatsu Miyamoto is 101 years old. She lives in Okinawa, a small island in Japan, and every morning she tends her garden with her own hands. The soil is rich, the plants grow strong, and Hatsu moves with a grace that belies her age. Her back is slightly bent, but her steps are steady. She doesn't just garden for food. She gardens for joy, for connection, and for the sense of purpose it gives her. Neighbors wave as she walks to the market, her basket filled with freshly picked vegetables, and she greets them with a smile that carries the weight of a century lived well. She still cooks her meals, joins in community gatherings, and laughs with her grandchildren. Her life may appear simple, but it is filled with rhythm, meaning, and belonging. Now let's cross the ocean to Ohio, where Earl Thompson, a 72-year-old retired truck driver, begins his day very differently. Earl wakes up slowly, his body stiff and aching from years of long hours behind the wheel. His kitchen counter is lined with pill bottles, blood pressure medication, cholesterol tablets, something for his joints. Breakfast isn't fresh miso soup or fish from the market. It's often toast from a plastic bag or a microwaved meal. Earl used to dream about traveling after retirement, but now much of his time is spent shuttling between doctor's appointments and sitting in front of the television. His children live hours away. His friends are fewer now, and the silence in his home weighs heavily. This contrast is striking, not just because of age, but because of quality of life. Hatsu is nearly 30 years older, yet her days are still filled with activity, connection, and vitality. Earl, decades younger, is already struggling with fatigue, isolation, and dependence on medications. It makes us pause and ask, why is one life still blooming while the other feels like it's slowly fading? Their stories symbolize something larger. Hatsu represents a culture that builds health and longevity into everyday life. Movement, diet, purpose, and community are woven into her daily routine. Earl's story reflects a society where convenience often replaces activity. Processed food crowds out nutrition, and retirement can bring not freedom, but a slow erosion of meaning. These two lives, though thousands of miles apart, cross paths in this comparison because they show us what's possible. Hatsu reminds us that age doesn't have to mean decline. It can mean continued growth, contribution, and joy. Earl reminds us of the risks we face if we don't rethink the way we live after 60. Together, their stories invite us to ask, which path are we choosing, and what changes can we make today to add not just years to our life, but life to our years? Difference 1. Movement woven into life. In Japan, movement is not something reserved for the gym, scheduled into a calendar, or forced into a workout class. It is woven into the very fabric of daily life. Step into a small town in Okinawa, or along the coastline of Shikoku, and you'll see elders walking slowly but steadily to the morning market, baskets in hand. Their homes often have tatami mats, which means sitting down requires squatting, kneeling, and getting back up, a form of natural exercise built into their routines. Even the way they prepare meals, tending to gardens, cleaning, and walking to neighbors' houses, keeps their joints flexible and their bodies engaged. These are not grand gestures of fitness, but quiet, consistent motions that add up over decades to create strength, mobility, and resilience. Now imagine Earl Thompson back in Ohio. At 72, his car sits ready in the driveway, and even though the grocery store is just 5 blocks away, he rarely considers walking. It's quicker to drive, he tells himself. but the truth is that his body no longer trusts those blocks. Years of relying on recliners, office chairs, and long hours on the road have shrunk his mobility. The recliner that once felt like comfort now acts like a trap, keeping him seated more than moving. He remembers with nostalgia the days when he walked to school as a boy, carrying books under his arm, running with friends, and feeling the freedom of movement. Back then, walking wasn't exercise, it was life. Now, walking even a short distance feels like a chore. The contrast between Hatsu and Earl is not about discipline or willpower, it's about environment and culture. In Japan, the built world encourages elders to move. Narrow streets, walkable neighborhoods, and small daily tasks invite gentle activity. In much of the United States, the built world discourages it. Wide roads, sprawling suburbs, and a culture of convenience quietly erase daily movement from people's lives. And when movement leaves, so does vitality. The emotional truth here is sobering. Losing movement means losing independence. Earl feels it when he struggles to bend down and tie his shoes. He feels it when climbing a set of stairs leaves him breathless. Hatsu, meanwhile, bends daily to tend her garden, rises gracefully from the floor, and carries vegetables home without thinking twice. One life is restricted by stillness, the other liberated by motion. For seniors watching this, the lesson is clear. You don't need to run marathons or lift heavy weights. But you do need to reclaim movement in small everyday ways. A walk around the block, standing up during television commercials, taking the stairs when you can. Every step counts, and every choice to move helps keep independence alive. Do you still walk daily, even just around your neighborhood? Share how far in the comments. It might inspire someone else to take that first step today. Difference 2. Eating for life, not for cravings. In Japan, food is not just fuel, it is tradition, balance, and often medicine. Step into a typical Okinawan home at lunchtime, and you won't see a heaping plate of greasy food. Instead, the table is covered with small bowls, each offering a taste of something fresh. A piece of grilled fish caught that morning, a handful of seaweed rich in minerals, a bowl of miso soup steaming gently, and seasonal vegetables picked from the garden or bought at the local market. Portions are modest, colors are vibrant, and variety is the rule. The Japanese way of eating emphasizes balance, savoring, and never overindulging. It is food that keeps the body light, energized, and nourished, rather than weighed down. One of their secrets lies in the principle of Hara Hachi Bu, the practice of eating until you're about 80% full. It's not a diet trend, it's a cultural wisdom passed down through generations. By stopping before feeling stuffed, digestion is easier, metabolism remains steady, and the body avoids the wear and tear that comes from chronic overeating. Imagine how different things might look if this small but powerful idea were practiced more often in the United States. Contrast this with Earl Thompson's kitchen in Ohio. Breakfast for him is often a sugary cereal or a fast food sandwich grabbed on the way home from an early doctor's appointment. Lunch might be a cheeseburger combo, the fries salty and addictive, the soda large enough to last the whole afternoon. Dinner? A microwaved frozen meal, something that promises quick and easy, but delivers preservatives, hidden sugars, and little nutrition. His counters are filled with boxes, bags, and wrappers instead of fresh produce. As he unwraps another package, he remembers his mother's garden when he was a child. The rows of tomatoes, the beans snapped by hand, the taste of corn straight from the stalk. Back then, food was real, simple, and alive. Now, everything comes from a box. The emotional cost of this shift is enormous. Earl eats not out of hunger, but out of habit, craving, and convenience. And each oversized portion, each added teaspoon of sugar, quietly erodes his health. In contrast, Hatsu eats slowly, enjoying every bite, and her meals leave her energized rather than sluggish. Her body carries less inflammation, her weight remains steady, and her organs are not burdened by years of processed overload. What makes this even more striking is that Japanese elders rarely talk about dieting the way Americans do. They don't chase the next health craze or fad. Their longevity is not built on restrictions or complicated rules, but on consistent, moderate eating, grounded in cultural wisdom. It's not about saying no to food, it's about saying yes to the right foods in the right amounts. This difference highlights a truth many Americans forget. Food is not just about filling the stomach, it's about shaping the future of our health. For Earl, every boxed meal chips away at his independence. For Hatsu, every bowl of miso soup protects hers. But here's where things get even more surprising. It's not only what Japanese elders eat that matters, it's what they don't put on their plates that makes the biggest difference. And that's what we'll uncover in the next shocking difference. Difference 3. Social circles versus silent houses. In Japan, aging is not a journey taken alone. In small towns and even in bustling cities, elders belong to what is known as a Moai, a lifelong circle of friends who remain connected through thick and thin. These groups meet regularly to share meals, laughter, and conversation. They celebrate birthdays, grieve losses, and lean on each other in times of need. Imagine a 98-year-old woman gathering with friends she's known since childhood. Everyone still checking on one another, making sure no one eats alone or feels forgotten. That sense of belonging doesn't just make the days brighter, it literally makes the years longer. Researchers have found that people in Moai groups experience lower stress, stronger immunity, and significantly longer lifespans. For them, friendship is not casual, it is survival. Now shift the view to many parts of the United States. Earl Thompson at 72 spends most of his days in silence. His home, once filled with the noise of children, now echoes with the sound of the television. His wife passed years ago, his kids live hours away, and the old friends he used to meet at the diner have either moved, grown ill, or passed on. Meals are often eaten at his kitchen table with no one across from him. Phone calls are infrequent, and some weeks pass without a single real conversation. The isolation weighs on him more than he admits. He once thought retirement would mean freedom, but instead it sometimes feels like a sentence of solitude. The truth is stark. Loneliness is as deadly as smoking. The US Surgeon General declared loneliness a public health epidemic in 2023, noting its connection to heart disease, dementia, depression, and early death. Earl's silent house is not just sad, it is dangerous. Compare that with Okinawa, where Hatsu at 101 never eats alone, where friends drop by unannounced, and where laughter is as common as tea. Community is not an afterthought, it is a daily lifeline. This difference strikes an emotional chord because it touches on something we all crave: to be seen, to be heard, to be remembered. Humans are social beings, and when that connection is stripped away, health suffers in ways no medicine can repair. Earl's body aches, but what hurts most is the silence. Hatsu's joints may be stiff, but her heart is kept strong by the chorus of voices around her. For seniors in America watching this, the lesson is not simply to make friends. It is about rebuilding connection in whatever form is possible. Joining a local church group, calling an old friend, volunteering, or even hosting a simple meal once a week. Just one or two consistent connections can transform not just mood, but health outcomes. So here's a gentle challenge for you. Who is your closest friend you talk to weekly? Write their name in the comments to honor them. You might remind yourself, and inspire someone else, that it's never too late to strengthen the ties that keep us alive, not just longer, but better. Difference 4. A reason to wake up. In Japan, longevity is not only about food, movement, or friendships, it is about Ikigai, the sense of purpose that gives life direction and meaning. Ask Hatsu Miyamoto, now 101, why she wakes up each morning, and she won't talk about medicine or luck. She'll tell you about her garden, where she tends to vegetables that she later shares with neighbors. She'll talk about teaching her great-granddaughter how to fold origami, or preparing tea for her visiting friends. None of these tasks are grand or glamorous, yet together they give her life structure, joy, and an enduring reason to rise with the sun. Purpose, no matter how small, becomes fuel for the spirit. Contrast that with Earl Thompson in Ohio. At 72, retirement brought relief at first. No more long hours on the road as a truck driver, no deadlines, no endless miles. But the excitement faded quickly. Days began to blur together. Morning felt no different than afternoon. With work gone, his sense of identity began to slip away. When I stopped working, I stopped living a little too, he admits quietly. Without the routine and responsibility of a job, Earl drifts. The recliner becomes his office, the television his company, and the pill bottles his new schedule. His life is not empty, but it feels unanchored. The difference here is profound. In Japan, elders rarely retire in the Western sense. Instead, they transition into roles that keep them engaged. Some continue working part-time, others dedicate themselves to community activities, and many nurture hobbies that bring daily fulfillment. The Japanese culture encourages people to stay useful, to contribute, and to find value in every stage of life. This is Ikigai, not just living, but living with meaning. Science backs this up. Studies show that seniors with a clear sense of purpose have lower risks of heart disease, dementia, and depression. Their bodies respond to meaning the way plants respond to sunlight. They flourish. Purpose strengthens resilience, lifts mood, and creates a reason to keep moving, even on difficult days. For Earl, the lack of purpose is more damaging than the aches in his knees. His body still has strength, but without a reason to use it, that strength dwindles. Hatsu, though decades older, thrives because her garden, her family, and her traditions demand her presence. One life drifts in silence, the other is carried forward by purpose. This is not just philosophy, it's a practical truth. Purpose does not have to mean a career or a grand mission. It can be as simple as mentoring a younger neighbor, baking bread for a local charity, or tending to a small houseplant that relies on you. What matters is the daily spark that says, I still matter. I still have something to give. And here's the real twist. What if living long has less to do with medicine and more to do with meaning? What if the true prescription for longevity is not in the doctor's office, but in rediscovering the simple joys that give us a reason to get out of bed every morning? For seniors watching this, the challenge is personal. Find your Ikigai. It doesn't need to be big, but it must be yours. Because at the end of the day, purpose is not what keeps you busy, it's what keeps you alive. Earl may not live in Okinawa. He may not have tatami mats in his home, open-air markets around the corner, or a Moai group of lifelong friends meeting at his doorstep. But the truth is he doesn't need to. The contrast between Hatsu and Earl is not a tale of two countries locked in fate. It is a story of choices. Choices made daily. Choices that ripple through years. Choices that determine whether life after 60 feels like decline or renewal. Imagine Earl deciding one morning to leave his car in the driveway and walk those 5 blocks to the grocery store. The first time might leave him winded, but with each step taken on another day, his legs grow stronger, his confidence returns, and his independence stretches out further into the future. Imagine him preparing smaller, fresher meals, maybe not miso soup and seaweed, but a bowl of oatmeal topped with berries, or vegetables roasted from the farmer's market. The shift may seem minor, but over time those little decisions reduce the pills, the weight, and the fatigue. Picture Earl picking up the phone to call an old friend, or inviting a neighbor over for coffee. The silence of his house softens, replaced by conversation, laughter, and a sense of connection he thought had slipped away for good. And finally, imagine him planting even a single tomato plant in his backyard, giving himself the simple task of nurturing something alive. That tiny spark of purpose, repeated each day, begins to feed not just the plant, but his spirit. This is the transformation. The realization that aging well is not about geography, but about mindset. Hatsu's secret is not only that she lives in Japan, it's that her culture has handed her a toolkit for longevity. Earl can choose to build his own toolkit. One step, one meal, one conversation, one purpose at a time. The emotional truth could not be clearer. Longevity isn't luck, it's a lifestyle. It is the accumulation of thousands of tiny acts of care for body, mind, and soul. And it's never too late to start. Whether you are 60, 70, or beyond, the path forward is not closed. Every day offers the chance to rewrite the ending, to add not just years to your life, but life to your years. The gap between 75 and 105 isn't destiny. It isn't a lottery. It's a decision, and that decision belongs to you. If this video opened your eyes, don't just sit back. Show your support right now by hitting the like button. It may feel small, but it tells YouTube that content like this matters, and it helps more seniors discover life-changing advice. And here's something important. Share this video with a friend over 60, because sometimes all it takes is one story, one perspective, one spark to add years of joy and independence to someone's life. Imagine being the reason a friend chooses to walk again, to reconnect, or to rediscover purpose. That gift could start with you. And finally, if you want to keep uncovering the secrets that make aging not just about adding years, but about adding better years, subscribe to Better Aging Advice. Join a growing community of people who believe that the second half of life can be the best half. Don't wait. The journey to a longer, fuller life begins with a single click.